Welcome to the Navigator Podcast. Welcome to the next installment of the Navigator. With me is Bradford Dempsey, CEO of Solutions 360. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Bradley. Nice to be here.
Thanks. So I know I've asked you a bunch of questions. I think you've got a couple for me, right?
Yeah, I think maybe it's time we turn the tables a little bit.
Okay. I look forward to it.
Well, one of the things I come across frequently is the whole concept of bonuses, of profit sharing, of using financial incentives, whether they're based on gross profit or sales or whatever, to help incent or to grow a business. And I'm really curious on how are the different mechanisms set up so that, whether it's project-based versus company profit sharing, et cetera, what are our options and what are your thoughts on whether that works?
Well, I think that, a lot of people use the word profit sharing, but what they really mean is their 401k or whatever country you're in, kind of their retirement plan that people can also contribute to. So aside of that, then there's project-based profit. And what I always look at when I look at a metric, and I'm sure we'll do many more of these on metrics, is that you have to look for the unintended consequence, because you always get what you measure. So I like to look at, I want to incentivize the project manager and everyone on the ops team to manage their projects to the quality standard profitably. And how I do that more profitably is I get rid of the waste and the drama and the callbacks. So in other words, I follow the documented process, and it's amazing what happens when you do that. So I like to put it into a pool, and let me talk to you about what ramification we have when we don't. So I work with several companies, and they'll say, well, I give my project managers a percentage of the gross at the beginning, or at the end. And then when I talk to those PMs, they often say, well, the way for me to make money is to increase the gross profit, so I'll just end the project early. In other words, I'll throw it to service, and then they'll clean it up for me. So you'll have that occurrence. And then it's like, well, now I'm destroying the company, and I'm destroying my service department. You'll also have senior people start to cherry pick projects. I want to work on that one and that one and that one, and I'll let the junior people or the people who aren't in the in club work on all the nasty projects. Or it can often feel like a punishment where I give a really ugly project that was a bid project that has 12% gross that's going to take a year to my best project manager. And then all these other small projects that are 20, 30, 40% blended are going to other people. So he looks at it as a huge opportunity cost. I just gave up all that. So I tend to want to look at, one, we always deliver quality, but second is we put it into a pool, and that pool becomes a bonus pool that's tied to a quarterly payout, okay? But it's on the differential of the profit, because a project manager doesn't get to establish the profit. They get what they get when it gets sold. But let's say it's at 20 points, and I can make it 22 points by doing contract change orders, by really reducing the drama. Again, I can make us 2% more points. A portion of that, I believe, ought to go into a pool. And then that pool is again dispersed, and how a company disperses it is up to them. But I find that it should be more than just project managers. It ought to be techs. It ought to be procurement. It ought to be warehouse. Anybody who's making that project profitable, which in the end comes back to the company, ought to be a part of that pool and visible to that pool. I find a huge conversation in companies is we have all these metrics, but we're keeping score in different games. And we want to be playing the same game with the same metrics that are visible, that are transparent, and all have skin in the game. Because I find that a tech will just work an hour of overtime if they want a bonus, if they want, quote, more money. And yet that was counter to making profit. That was a long-winded answer, but.
So very interesting. But so the companies you see utilizing this most effectively, what kind of results are they getting out of this kind of program?
Everybody in operations is playing for the same team. You'll get some drama in terms of some people say, well, I contributed more than the other, but in the end, it all evens out. And when people see the same scoreboard, you actually tear down silos. You have way less finger pointing between ops and sales. And again, if I'm establishing as a project manager, one of the things that we also have to do is re-baseline the project when it comes in, because oftentimes you will have organizations still where sales cuts labor in order to increase the gross profit or gross margin. So the project managers have to have the ability to say, this was undersold, and the real profit's going to be 15%, and have that approved. They just can't pad it. But what I find then is that operations is on the same team in the same game, and that is to raise the differential.
Okay.
And then there's all sorts of ways to look at that. And part of our lessons learned are what caused us to lose our profit.
Great. So in summary, could you specify one thing that you must do to have a successful program and one thing that you should never do that will always cause problems?
One thing you have to, well, I'm going to say two things you have to do. Okay. You have to educate people on what the term gross profit really means and why it's there. And I find too many companies don't even allow the PMs or anyone else on that side to even understand what it is. And they don't even see financial reports or anything for that. So first we have to educate, and we've done a session on that. And then the second is make it transparent and create it as a team. So put it in a pool, set aside, show that there's a pool there. You don't get it all. We have to protect the house too. So if we make 2% extra, 1% ought to cover those jobs that go bad. So right. It's a shared risk and a shared reward. I think the companies that do it poorly are measuring the one thing they're after incorrectly and forcing the wrong behaviors. So I see too many, again, Ponzi schemes. I'm robbing projects to keep, or we start to put all of our hours into the project that's already bad because, you know, we all lost on that one, but let's shave hours off the ones that do. So I think the companies that reward falsehoods, and you know it, I mean, I can walk into any company and look around and go, they're playing the game. So when you allow the game to be played, as opposed to rewarding the truth, you're going to get a different game than you want.
Thank you. Very enlightening.
You're welcome. Thanks.